If I'm destined to get hit by a car here, will I still get hit by that car no matter what I do? What if I take a step back? Everything that will happen in our lives is written in our destiny with all its details. So what is our role in this world then? Are we just puppets playing what has been already written? For instance, were you destined to watch this video right now? Or let's make the question even more difficult. If someone is already destined to go to hell, then what is the fault of that person? The belief in destiny is a concept that has been debated for many centuries, and is perhaps one of the most difficult topics to understand. There have been many misunderstandings and disagreements on this issue, and as a result, serious disputes have come up. There have been people who completely denied destiny, and on the contrary, there were others who accepted it but completely denied free will. In other words, both sides went to extremes and couldn't find the middle ground. But then, how should the middle ground be? What is the correct way of believing in destiny? Do you have the correct belief? Or are there some flaws that you haven't realized? If you want to find out the answers to all these questions, make sure to watch this video carefully until the end. Let's begin. Belief in destiny is to believe that from the very beginning, Allah knows everything that will happen in the universe, and that He has written all of them in full detail even before creating them. But how can something be completely known and written before it even happens? It's normal for us to find this difficult to understand because it has to do with timelessness. While we are living inside time, it's really hard to grasp the state of being timeless, existing outside of time. Now let's first define the concept of time in the most basic sense. The concept we call time is the creation of things from Allah's infinite knowledge, their emergence into the realm of existence, and then their withdrawal from the stage through death and annihilation. In other words, time is the sequence in which things are created. Allah created a different day yesterday, a different one today, and will create a different day tomorrow. It's as if time is like a rope, and all events that happen are lined up one after the other on that rope. But this sequence only applies to us. For example, let's say you have a 10-line poem in your memory. All these 10 lines exist in your memory at the same time. But when you start writing it on paper, you write it in a certain order. You start with the first line, then the second line, then the third line, and so on. While on paper, you write these lines one after the other and in a certain order, in your memory, all these lines are present at the same time. Just like this, everything that has happened or will happen in the realm of existence is already present in Allah's knowledge simultaneously. But when He brings them into existence, He creates them in a certain sequence, and we call that sequence time. Let's make it even simpler. Allah is the creator of the concept of time, right? And as a rule, everything that He created in the universe is bound by time. So, can this rule also be applied to Allah when He is the one who created that? Of course not. Since Allah is the creator of time, then naturally, He shouldn't be bound by it. And so if Allah is not limited by time, wouldn't it be normal for Him to know the future? Now we're going to demonstrate this point with a very powerful example. I want you to pay really close attention to it. Let's imagine a camera in our hands. Then we draw a line on the table. The left side represents the past, the middle represents the present, and the right is the future. If I hold the camera in the center and close to the table, the camera only captures and sees the present. The higher we raise the camera, the more it captures the past and the future. And when we raise the camera to the very top, it encompasses and captures all these times at once. All of them can be seen simultaneously in that camera. Just like this, we are living on a certain timeline in the universe. We have a life that we live as the past, present, and future. Similar to the camera capturing the entire table from above, Allah, being outside of time, encompasses all of time, past, present, and future with His infinite knowledge. So being eternal means to encompass all of time at once. It doesn't mean to just be at the very beginning of the timeline or to be before everything. So, as you see, it is very reasonable to think that Allah can know all times and all events, and that He has written all of them into our destiny. Right at this point, we come across a very popular question. If God is beyond time and He knows and writes everything even before it happens, then where is our free will in this picture? In other words, are we just puppets? Having destiny and free will seem contradictory at first. But even if a person cannot figure out the connection between these two concepts, we know the existence of our free will very well. For example, in a study made by the Pew Research Center in 2012, Muslims around the world were asked whether they believe in destiny and whether they think they have free will. While 70 to 90% of the Muslims believe that destiny is predetermined by the Creator, they also believe in individual responsibility and free will. So, how is it that having something written in our destiny doesn't force us to do that thing? Knowing something does not mean forcing someone to do that thing. The most common mistake we make is to confuse these two concepts. Knowledge is one thing and power is another thing. Knowing is one thing and forcing someone is another. Think of the different colors of the sun. Yellow is one of these colors and red is another. Similarly, Allah also has different names and attributes. One of His names is Al-Alim, the all-knowing, and the other is Al-Qadir, the all-powerful. So His knowing is different and His forceful intervention are two different attributes. So the fact that Allah knows everything does not mean that we don't have free will or that we do everything by force. There's a famous principle in the science of logic. Knowledge is subject to what is known. That is, knowledge about something is based on, dependent on the reality of that thing in the real world. In other words, knowledge doesn't create or change the reality of something, but instead it is dependent on and corresponds to how that thing actually is. There's a very good example that brings this close to mind. Let's say you're on top of a mountain and you see two trains coming towards each other. Feeling sorry for the people on the trains, you write on a piece of paper that these trains will crash in 8 seconds. And they actually do crash into each other in 8 seconds. Now, in this situation, can we see something like, the trains crashed because you wrote that on the paper beforehand, therefore you are to blame? Of course not. The trains didn't crash because you wrote that on the paper. You knew that the trains were going to crash, that's why you wrote it. Just as even we can know when the trains are going to crash with our limited knowledge, Allah can surely know what we will do in our lives with His infinite knowledge. But as we said before, Allah's knowledge of events does not impose on or destroy our free will, but rather reflects the reality of those events as they are. The time of the sunrise is written on the calendar, right? But can that writing itself be a factor that forces the sun to rise at that specific time? Of course not. It was written like that based on the movements of the sun in the real life. Similarly, the fact that Allah knows what we will do does not make us do these things. The things that are written in our destiny are there because we are actually going to do them. Knowledge doesn't change reality. It just conforms to it. At this point, we have to clarify that the concept of destiny is basically divided into two. One is involuntary destiny, qadar izdirari, and the other is voluntary